than neighbor against neighbor or reporting each other.
Okay, we'll get started.
I did hear that was happening.
I'm going to call this special meeting to order. Everybody rise for the flag salute, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, I can't either. Okay, we'll just get right into public comments. We're going to take public comments. We'll try to do it in orderly. We'll start in the front row and work our way back, and then we'll go back through. Everybody will have 3 minutes to speak. This is public comments and requests for allocations of the Act 13 revenues. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with the first row. If there's any requests off of the first row. If you could please stand up and state your name.
Okay. I have a copy for everybody. Rebecca Scarpan, 151 Avella Road, Hickory. I'm here tonight representing Heritage Public Library. Have a printout. We're requesting funds to replace our copier and our fax machine. With the increased business in townships due to the oil and gas industry, we've seen an increase in the wear and tear of our equipment. Our computers and our copier are being used to apply for jobs in that industry. And also industry people are in there using the fax machine. In addition, new residents to the area due to the oil and gas industry, whether permanent or temporary, are in using our equipment and services. And this piece of equipment is in greatest need of replacement. As you can tell by the copies you have there, this was made with our copier machine that we have at the library. So as you can see, we are in desperate need of a new one. And we're also requesting maintenance for 4 years. We're only requesting a used one. It's slightly used. It would be $4,000. And the maintenance is $960 for 4 years, so it would be $4,960. And as you know, Heritage Public Library services the Fort Cherry School District area, and Mount Pleasant Township is the largest portion of that area.
That is the full amount, the $4,960.
Yes.
That would be the full amount. Okay.
Yes.
Any questions from?
I was just asking Neva if that falls into an allowable for Act 13.
It's like on the edge of maybe records management, information technology. Maybe some way to look at it. I mean, it doesn't, if you look at the categories, it doesn't directly fit into any. But if you look, recreation and parks is in one. And then there's another category for records management, geographic, GIS systems and information technology services. So, I mean, it's worth maybe looking at.
We're information technology services.
Certainly what libraries have become, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So is copying and fax machine the extent of what you're asking, or was there computers in there?
No.
We were just requesting for
Okay, so you're
we were just
maintenance.
requesting the copier, but just making you aware, our computers are also being well used.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in the first row? Second row.
I'm Paul Batista, Chairman of the Municipal Authority of Mount Pleasant Municipal Authority for Sewage. George Alkers here is on the committee. I don't think there's anyone else here that's on the committee. But we want to bring a presentation to you. We are in the process of, we've approved the plans. We've contracted with an engineer to put the proposal together as to what the estimated costs are going to be. And from there, we need to secure funding to do the project. The project is estimated around $19.2 million. The engineering side of it, the upfront side of it is going to be around $2 million. With that said, we can possibly get funding from Penvest for around 11 million of that. So there would be about an $8 million fund gap for us to be able to complete the project or get the project going. With that, I have a handout for you. I'll give you two, but just to recap, we have sewage planned, a plant planned in Westland. Southview would be serviced by a pump system, so it would be pumped up over Route 50 into the sewage plant in Westland. Hickory would be just all basically downflow. I think there's two pump stations in Hickory. We would be servicing 750 EDUs, which is basically a house or a business. Out of that 750, that's where the projects are. What else we got? So what would we use the funds for? Up front, for us to get the project started, if we started today and we had the funds today, we might be able to start flushing the end of 2016, but more like 2017 is when the project would be completed and we'd have the tap-ins in place. So we need the upfront funds of $2 million to get the engineering done and going. So far, we've been paying out of our own funds and reserves that we have for aerial mapping and some upfront engineering. We had to go back and redesign the Act 537 plan. That cost us a few bucks there, so we've been paying that as we go. How can we handle the $2 million? The $2 million up front is we could go to a bank and get a line of credit. But what we'd like to do is use Act 13 money to pay that down up front because it would help everybody in the community. From there, we could pay down long-term debt. I just want to read my first paragraph to you. As chairman of the Mount Pleasant Municipal Authority, I once again ask you as our township supervisor to really consider this question. What is the best project to invest the Act 13 funds into that will benefit the community as well as for the long-term benefit of the community? I believe it is our responsibilities as leaders to build the infrastructure and let the people build the community around that infrastructure. So with that, I have my application stuff here for whatever we can get. I didn't hear a total dollar figure of what's available when we started the meeting because I think there's still fun stuff from 2011.
And then 2012.
1.3 million, roughly.
And that would include the 20...
No, that does not include the 250,000.
So naturally, without getting a
Oh, wait a
figure to
minute.
it, I'm basically asking you for as much as we can get. Does the solicitor need a copy?
Sure.
Thank you.
Anything up to 2 million, Paul? Is that what you're saying?
No, if you go a little further. My plan, what we talked about is 2 million will get us going, but we need the funding up front to get it going. Once we get it going, I would like to do a long-term commitment, which you'll see on page 2, that if we could do 75% of future Act 13 income to pay down debt. So that would still leave us income, the Act 13 money that were coming in, 25% of it could still go back to the community for other projects, but everyone's going to benefit, pretty much everyone's going to benefit from there, and that's what we're looking at. So 2 million up front, and whatever we can do down the road here, but it's going to be a costly project. And as everyone well knows, I think everyone knows, that there's a few systems leaking and that, and we have some issues in the township. We're not being mandated right now by the DEP, but it could very well be that we get mandated, get forced into doing the project.
If I recall, you've kind of somewhat been told that in a subtle way, that if you're not doing something,
Yeah, we've gotten a few letters, maybe I've gotten a letter that, about it, and they urged us to move forward with the project.
Anything else? You good?
No? I think I understand what Paul's asking
good.
for. He's asking for more than we've got.
Thanks, Paul. Finish the second row.
Good. My name's Jeff Donati. I live on 12 Washington Avenue. There were, I believe, 7 homes on Washington Avenue who got a letter within the last month from the Washington County Sewage, it's not authority, council, Washington County Sewage Council. And I know that personally there was I know about 10 other people in the last year who got the same letter that basically says, your sewage is leaking out on top of the ground. You're gonna have to spend $150 for a dye test to prove whether or not it's yours. And I did that. One of my neighbors is here, he did that. And there were 7 of us all together recently. So I'm just here to, you know, I guess attest to what he's asking for. As a community, I think it's probably one of the biggest expenditures that we're gonna have, other than the water several years ago, that's going to benefit the health and welfare of the entire community and everyone downstream. You know, I was born and raised here on Washington Avenue, and it's been leaking there since I was a kid. But I'm just here to say, yes, I think we should at some, you know, I don't know what percentages, that's, you know, for everyone else to decide, but I think a good portion of it should go to putting a sewage system in so that, you know, we all have a healthy lifestyle, you know. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Is the council putting any pressure on you to remedy that situation immediately?
The letter states, and I should have brought the letter states that if you're found at fault, you will be forced to get a permit and remediate your system. That's what it says. It seems official, I don't know. You know, it says if you fail to do the dye test, then they've used the local courts to force you to do the dye test. And there was some talk, and whether or not legalities, I don't know, of whether or not the presence of what's going on with the sewage authority here and the Act 537 in existence, on whether or not they can legally make us do.
I just talked to the solicitor about that, and she said they can make
They
you.
can legally make us no
Yeah.
matter where we're at in that
Yeah.
plan. It just doesn't make sense for us to be spending thousands of dollars to remediate our existing system, that if in 4 or 5 years we're gonna get a system, you know, why should we spend that and then possibly pay a tap-in fee in another 4 or
Right.
5 years? So.
And I've seen that exact thing happen, so.
Well, what it is that somebody complains that it's running on their property, you know, and I can go to 98% of Hickory and complain about everybody in Hickory, but who wants to do that?
Right.
Like I was told I'd get my money back if it didn't come out of the pond area, well it didn't, and they said my leach bed was surfacing, so it failed. And it's all of Hickory.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So I go to my neighbor and complain about his, and that's what's gonna end up being in Hickory. And everybody knows it.
And it was
And I'm pissed, 'cause, you know,
prior,
And I don't blame you.
prior to the city water system, everybody was working off of wells and water was
Right.
short, so it wasn't showing as bad. It was showing.
It
now-
certainly hasn't got any better.
No.
It's gotten worse,
No.
because with the availability of water,
You use more water.
use more. I know for a fact, the house that I grew up in Washington Avenue, there's a family of 5 there now. The well was completely inadequate because I grew up in the house. And now that they have city water, I noticed the fact that there's a lot more coming out. You know, it's just a given with the city water.
they said they're doing a testing to get all their ducks in a row because Mount Pleasant Township's dragging their feet. That's what they said.
I don't think we are anymore.
I don't think we are now, and I don't think we were in the past, it was just funding.
Funding,
Funding.
exactly.
So what they're doing is they're going around charging every household $150, and if it surfaces, you don't get your money back.
Right.
So I mean, they could do that, damn, for weeks for the rest of the year and next year.
If people keep
Right.
calling on somebody, then absolutely they will.
But they could do that to every
Well,
household in
the
the
testing was
township.
for to see who's coming out that pond.
Yep.
It wasn't for who's, you
The
know,
testing's
surfacing.
nothing compared to what the remediation's gonna be. The remediation will be, I had a 3-chamber chlorination system, an NPDES system, an NPDES permit, And I purchased 2
Well-
right-of-ways to have the water drain, so it can be really expensive.
Well, that's what you say, you can get the sand mound or a holding tank, but my house, Faz
Right.
Waters, we don't have the property to
Right.
do that.
Right.
So what do you do?
Well, the fact of the matter is that we're moving forward
Right.
on it. The DEP will back off. As long as they know that we are,
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do, is
Sure,
just,
absolutely.
get the ball rolling, but why does, certain people have to get the testing done and the rest of Hickory doesn't, Mount Pleasant Township,
well,
you know?
Yeah, right, that's kind of a whole separate issue.
That's what they deal with right now, it's like, okay, if I gotta get it done, why doesn't it involve?
there's very few people that would pass.
Yeah,
Right.
yep. Thank you.
Priscilla Bernard, 25 McCarroll. And even Main Street drains. Go up and look into my orchard. So I'm definitely in favor of it.
Yep.
Money went for sewage.
All fields.
Second row, anybody else? Third row? You had
Kevin Dry, Mount Pleasant Township Fire Department. Here to request funding from Act 13. We're looking to request over the next 5 years, $100,000 a year be set into a savings account. At the end of the 5 years, request that money to purchase an engine for the fire department. We have 2 engines now. The second one's 20+ years old. A new truck's right around $460,000. In 5 years, it's going to be a lot more than that. If we had this money put away over the next 5 years, we could purchase a new truck, and we would still have to put funding toward it, but it would help relieve the financial burden of the fire department. And I only have 1 copy, sorry about that.
Thanks, Kevin.
Oldest?
Well, that truck, the one you're talking about replacing, is that the one the insurance company was telling you that you better replace because it's over 20-some years old?
It's a 1994, and it's 20 years old this year. Last year it cost about close to $6,000 in maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
What type of truck are you looking at, Kevin?
It would be another engine
Strictly
rescue.
engine rescue?
Similar to what's in Hickory.
Okay.
But within the next 5 years, that might change. Depending on the growth of the township.
Yep.
You have 2 others, did you say?
We have 2 engines now. One's a 2011, one's a 1994, and we have a, is it a 99 tanker? Or a 2008, I'm sorry. Then we have a 99 tanker, which can be used as a 3rd engine. It just doesn't have no room. It's a water truck. It brings water. It does have pumps and ladders, but there's no room for other equipment or manpower. But the oldest truck is 20 years old this year.
Are you having any difficulty with any of those? In terms of
Right now,
repair?
everything's sitting pretty good.
What's a 2%?
The maintenance is what's gonna start on the Pierce. It is starting to rust. We've been replacing rotors and tires and brakes. When you do that, it's not a couple hundred, it's a couple thousand this time.
And you said you're spending about $6,000 a year maintenance on the one that you want to replace.
Just thinking out loud, Kevin, if we were able to make something work, along with a 2% loan that the fire department would apply for, maybe put money towards the payment or something like that. Would that be an option instead of,
You mean actually having a truck payment from the Act 13?
from, yeah,
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
on a 2% loan payment?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can hold, I think, 3 2% loans at any given time.
But you can
Ours
only,
will be paid off here real soon.
the 2%'s only a percentage of the overall though.
Yeah, the 2% loan's only $115,000
Towards that.
towards that. But we could possibly use that maybe as a down payment. And if then there was funding from the Act 13 yearly, say, just rough numbers, 50 grand, that would be that said truck payment for the 5 years. Chartiers Township just put a brand, well, it's not in service yet. They took delivery of a new truck last Friday. Something real similar to what we're looking at, and it was $561 with the trade-in.
And you'd be selling the Pierce?
Or trading, or, I mean, it's,
Yeah. Doing something, you wouldn't keep it.
no, we wouldn't keep it.
Make one more comment on ours. You mentioned the 2% money, our Penvest money would be 1%. And what we're kind of looking for is that up front, that's at 8 million that we need that gap. And once we get that, past that, again, I can agree with you with the loan, let the Penvest money work at 1%. It's kind of the same situation.
Cheap money.
Yep.
Cheap money.
I'm good.
Thanks, Kevin. Third row, one over? Yes, sir.
John Gershock, 2734 Cherry Road. Exactly how much money are we talking from this Act 130, or this Act money every year we're getting?
It varies. Right now, we're sitting on about 1.3 million.
You have bank right now, 1.3.
Yes.
How much do you anticipate every year average? 500, a million?
It varies depending on the well activity.
Okay.
The well activity, and it's a maximum of 50% of your budget.
I lived on Dagger Drive. I moved back to Fort Cherry Road with my parents to build a house. But I can test, we need sewage on it. Like from when I lived there, and what they're saying about Washington Avenue, the times act is now. Like, I mean, we should have done it when we got water put in, but we didn't. But we need sewage bad. I mean,
We realize that.
yeah, I just for it. Another thing, I'd like to see. I'm one of the 60 state troopers in Washington, that governs Washington County, and I think Mount Pleasant is a good department, but they're not full time. I'd like to see some money put into them. You got two cars. You got 4 troopers at nighttime. One sometimes a supervisor. So you have 3 cars that governs this county. Does anyone know where West Finley is? If we're all down in West Finley, and we have a burglary in progress in Mount Pleasant Township, and dispatch doesn't send it to county to have locals come, we're even going 100 miles an hour, you'll see us in 30 minutes. Okay? I'm just telling, these are the facts. I mean, I've worked the job. I know what it's like, Who has a good department? I'd like to see it full-time, just for the safety of the residents here. Also, we have all these gas trucks, oil trucks, oversized loads. You know how many people in our county are certified to inspect them to let you know if they're safe to pass you on these roads, on our highways? The one person, his name's Frank Lewis. He's your only mix-up. Mix-ups are motor carrier enforcement officers. He's the only one in this whole county. Works 40 hours a week. So how many of these trucks in our township are passing us that are horribly unsafe? It's a 3-week class. I'd like to see who get funded to send one of our locals out there and be mix-up certified. I don't think any are they? We're waiting out for this. Yeah, I'd like to see one of them get the full training that they need, that if an oversized load, turns over, you don't have to wait for Frank Lewis to come and inspect it. We can handle it in this township, and we have enough of these trucks, and the citations go towards the township a lot of the money. I want to see one of their officers get mixed up certified.
Do you know what the cost of that is? Or what it
It ain't that much.
No?
It really ain't. It's hosted in Harrisburg. It's a 3-week class, you get a laptop, they bring in big rigs, well trucks. I mean, we need it. We have one guy in this county. I was on a crash right in 519. 2 super loads just came down from here. Expired inspections. That's how old they're getting, that they know that they can get away with whatever they want up here. Expired inspections, 200,000 ton trucks, or 200,000 pound trucks.
I agree with that.
Yeah, we need to get this, someone that's gonna stay
I'm in
around.
business and I agree with that.
So
I'm New Dominion Construction's safety director and DOT compliance
They don't
officer.
let you guys get away with it, I'm sure.
We do not get away with it.
Right.
But they're that bold that they know that they would not get caught running 2 oversized loads out of here. We need
Without
this.
putting extra boom.
Yeah, we need this more than that. It's not gonna cost a lot and it will fund itself, I promise you.
What's it called?
MCSAP,
M?
MCSAP. I can give you all the details afterwards, email your coordinator. It's hosted in Harrisburg. We have one guy for the whole county. We need this.
I just have two questions on it. Are you saying only when the rig has a wreck, or the truck has a wreck, that that's when you need that option?
No, all the
You
time.
can
All
do it
the
at
time.
times.
All these welders up here, they're running, a lot of them are running way past, a lot of them don't need logbooks, but a lot of them are running millions of hours, like 120-hour weeks, because there's no one up here. I'm a trooper for 7 years, okay? And this is advanced training, like I have no clue what their logbooks do. You know? I don't.
There's 2 places you'll see a DOT inspection. Smith Township on 18,
Yeah.
and it's just outside of the county limits at the landfill in Imperial. Those are the 2 places that you'll see in anywhere near here that will be DOT inspections.
For example, a lot of times I see it's Smith Township, it's Smith Township Police. that are
It's
there.
Smith Township.
Yeah, they have.
Their own,
Yep.
And that was my next question, is why isn't other townships, why isn't other townships doing it already? What, is there a catch to it, or is Smith's doing
Somebody's
it?
probably getting paid.
No, there are some of the other local townships that are now doing it. They're getting their own officers. It's becoming more and more.
Plus, I'm sure it takes a lot of time to set somebody up to do that. You're committing at least one guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
So-
3-week class.
Smith doesn't.
Yep.
But it is a revenue stream,
Right.
and it keeps the roads safe.
Right.
Like, Lou, what do you guys get from the speeding ticket up here? What's the township?
You just get half the fine.
You know how much if your township guys would have caught these 2 oversized loads coming down, you would, it's half of $10,000, there's like $5,000 right to the township. These fines aren't no joke, these fines are like minimum of $1,000.
I think I don't want to trip a burst off, but, the purpose is more for safety than revenue, because what you don't want to see is that people become dependent on wanting to get revenue out of
From that sewage somehow.
So that's my conclusion. I'd like to see, who has a good department. I know contracts coming up with them. I'd like to see a good, fair contract with them. With more money to them, give them full time, just standalone department. And sewage.
Thank you.
That's it.
Anything? Thanks, Joel. Are you in the row by yourself, or we'll just go from the back? We'll go left to right. Sorry, you're right.
I requested again, I'm gonna request again. We need water at the ball fields that we have down below the school. We need sanitation, we need restrooms. The whole community will benefit from this. We could have tournaments there, we could have later night games, we could have more people. Under Parks and Recreation usage, we could definitely put the restrooms and the water in. We're not worried about sewage yet, but we might. But I think that's right. I think that all these projects are very, very worthy, but under recreation, we do have a need at the ball field. We've tried to find the money. We've talked about it for 4 months now. We don't have an estimate yet. We don't have anybody working on it yet. I would really like to see us move forward. We start ball again in April. We play this September, October, November. I'd like to see us moving forward on this. It's something I really think we need. It's just a small project. It's probably going to be about $25,000 at tops. We really need it. The other thing that I'd like to see is a lot of townships are putting 911 numbers at the end of their driveways. The townships themselves are getting the little placards or getting the little numbers to put at the driveway. I think that the fire department needs this help in locating addresses. Our addresses are kind of odd right now because of the gas and oil wells. We've got stuff that's way back there, the signs are off the road. I'd like to see the township get active in making sure that there are numbers and placards at the ends of every lane, every driveway, things that are set off the road for safety. So, where I'd like to see some of them do.
Thank you.
I made some calls this week, Jane, you'll be pleased to know, yes, I
Thank
did.
you.
So
Now we
I'm
do have-
awaiting some responses about the ball field.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
And I think we have an agenda item this,
I have a question. What entity owns that ball field? We're talking about the old Hickory Grade School ball field?
Yes,
yes,
What entity owns that building and facility?
township.
The
township.
township owns it? Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Do we have an agenda item about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not on this agenda.
I thought there was. About the house number?
Oh, I thought
Yeah,
ball
house.
field, sorry.
But the 911 numbers that she's talking about could indeed go to those house number issues too.
That's, yeah, that's what, it's all, that's all the same.
Basically, it is a house number.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Bill McClellan, Chief of Police, Grand Township. Top two items are the same two that I requested the last time for the Act 13 allocation. The first one would be obviously put towards the additional manpower, puts other officers on it, to make us 24/7. Second one goes hand in hand with that. As we continue to grow, we're running out of room. We either need a standalone police department or we need an addition. The workers' comp lady was in, I didn't get a chance to meet with her, but her complaints are the same every time. We don't have a holding cell. We have very small area for evidence securing, things like that. I've started looking at steel buildings. I honestly believe for what we need, the space we need, an insulated steel building will probably get it done probably under $250,000. That would include storage for the vehicles as well. County, we recently switched by federal mandate to narrow band. The fire department knows that. We updated our radios as best we could. I'd like to see some new portable radios when we're out on the road. And also, we utilize our portables inside the building. Since the switch to narrow band, they're not pulling out as good as they used to from inside the building. I'd like to see a base radio installed with an antenna to get us up and out. Along the lines of communication, I'd like to see the phone system upgraded, or no disrespect to Hickory Telephone. Our phone provider says that it's Hickory Telephone says that it's phone provider. We're missing messages, we get voicemails, we don't get voicemails, we get busy signals, we get tones, and then people come down here and they're yelling at us that we're not calling them back, we're not getting the messages. There's also a disconnect problem where lines are busy for hours on end, and we have multiple lines coming in that shouldn't be busy signal. Training. I always like try to get training for officers. That's as it arises. We try to seek out the free training as best we can, but there's still sometimes with that there's travel, sometimes possible lodging. The mix out is something along those lines. It's not expensive, but what it would end up costing us money is travel and lodging per diem, that type of stuff. Our mobile terminals, our computers in the cars, they're starting to become antiquated. I'd actually like to start shopping around for notebooks or tablets. They're getting away from putting the stands in the cars. Cecil's starting to explore that as well. And then it's also something the officers can actually, once the scene's secured, can take into a scene, actually use it for photographing and everything. They don't have to be redundant and download everything. It's already going to be on the device and able to be migrated right over to our system. Can always use a new vehicle. We were able to buy one last year through the Act 13 money. We're able to get another one. That would be fantastic at the minimum. I'd like to see us upgrade and start putting cameras in the cars. That's something else. The workers' comp has always been about they want to have cameras in the car. And we've never budgeted
for those extra types of things in the past. And, as everybody else becomes updated in their equipment too, we carry the shotguns, which are a nice tool, but I'd like to also see us have patrol rifles in all of our units as well. Other than that, along with what our trucks said, I don't have it on here, but I'm a waymaster. We could also look into getting scales. They're a couple $1,000 for a set of scales. And again, the problem there is every 6 months calibrated. That's a trip to Harrisburg. So
You can do it, if you actually get scales, you can do it when Harrisburg comes to the PSP Washington, they check all the scales.
well, I know some of the other places that have them. They've told them they can't piggyback on PSP. They have to actually take them to Harrisburg. I don't know why, but so. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Do you have a dollar total?
I'm with Mr. Batista. You can just sign the check. You can sign the check and give it to us. That'll be fine. 1.3.
Chief, for the base unit, would a repeater up at the fire hall, would that similar to what some of the other, I think the ambulance has one up there? Or do you want a base unit in the
I'd rather
office?
have a base unit, because then we're running the batteries down, using the portables in there. And for whatever reason, I mean, as far on the police side of it, I don't know how it works on the fire or the EMS side. Smith Township and a couple other departments have the repeaters. And they've not had much luck with them. Plus, too, you have to remember, when you get out of the car, you have to switch your radio to the repeater channel. If you get a hot call, a lot of times people run out, they're not thinking about switching channels on the radio and everything like that. So.
Fire department interested in renting that garage space and holding solar on the side, new offices?
Possibility.
Yeah?
No, no.
Thanks, Chief. Anybody else?
Colin Reed, 25 Main Street. What Trooper was telling us about companies taking advantage of us. We had a local company advertising for drivers. Want to work 12 straight days, 12 hours a day. Definitely against any rules they have. And over the phone they'll tell you that. I really think that's a good idea. It's either Smith or Burgestown contracts a guy from Turkey who's used to come down and do the inspection. She inspects all the whole thing. And the other thing I know, what Paul asked for, I heard the comment that it's more money than what we have. Well, DBEP or whoever it is comes around to us and they don't ask us to get that much money to put into it. They just take it. That's.
Yep. Thanks, Phil. Let me start back up here again, just then we'll go back through. Anybody on the first row? Second row? Paul?
I'm just gonna make comment to what I've heard. A lot of requests. Just an FYI, for those of you who don't understand Act 13, we're actually leaving money on the table because our budget is not big enough. Gary said 50% we can only get up to 50% of our budget. So I would make the suggestion, and no one likes to quote raise taxes, but if we can increase our budget to cover some of Louis' stuff, some of around, could we get more money out of the Act 13 to give us more money to work with? It's a wash, because if we don't do that, then we turn around and we still got to pay for a fire truck, the police, the sewage. So maybe it's time we kind of look at that as an opportunity. There's no guarantee the range is going to drill X amount of wells a year, but I think if we have a working relationship with them and they're drilling in the township, I think they will be more apt to drill more wells to help us out from that standpoint. The second thing, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I was totally against the township buying quarries. But if you're going to do rigged places, you need a place to pull over and pull those rigs over. Louis asking for a building. I'm not saying to use it for public, but it wouldn't make a bad police station and a place to pull over the check trucks. the far side, but I'm not saying the Corbin's office side, but the far side where the river ties are, maybe spend a little more money, that wall's falling down, dig that wall back a little bit further, but that's plenty big enough to pull trucks over there. Just a thought.
When it was shit.
Sorry.
Go back to the back.
Well, it's a piece of property that's there, I get it. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I don't think it's, I don't think it's advantageous for, as a public meeting room with the steps and the way that goes on that far side. But he's looking for long-term storage, that bottom building, if you only gotta go in there once or twice a week, and he can put the police cars on the upper side. I'm just saying.
What are you talking about?
Corbin's building.
Wow, Tim, that could be a double side. We can get one for fire trucks and get around too.
But if he wants to build a building of the size he's saying, where are you gonna build it at?
Well, that's,
Are you gonna cover the process of how this all works? I mean, now that you have the suggestions and everything, what do you do with that and where does it go and how is it voted on? And
the supervisors will mull it over and it'll be a motion at a meeting,
okay.
whether it's the meeting tonight or next month.
So, the time frame is very soon.
And just to be clear, your 1.3 million you're talking includes 2011 left over?
What there is, there's a current balance is 1.584 million, 1,584,000. The appropriated already is $230,000 to municipal, and there's $25,000 to the planning commission for
Comprehensive.
comprehensive plan, which leaves a balance of $1,329,601.
For all 3 years?
That's
Okay.
what's it.
And Lou said that he got a police car last year, Chief Lou did. Does that come out of that there, so there's another additional comes out of that?
That's gone.
It already, yeah.
Okay, so 1.3.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what's actually said.
How often does a payment come in to that fund?
Once a year.
Once a year?
Once a year? And when is that?
A month ago?
June,
And what was the last payment?
600,000.
600,000. And I guess we've asked, and I know you can't tell, but what was the year prior to that payment?
511, I think.
511 was the first year, like 485.
Okay.
So it's somewhere between 500 and 600, we'll say it average 500,000 the last 3 years. Okay. Am I right to assume that as development continues within the township and whoever drills more wells, that the production goes up and the payment goes up?
Up to 50% of your budget.
It was like the second or third highest in the county, wasn't it? Township.
Up to 50% of our budget. What is our budget?
1.7.
Okay, so we're basically close to the.
Close to
Yeah,
that.
we're bumping it
We're
already.
bumping it already, okay. I'm just learning, getting involved in the township and trying to get educated on what kind of money, we're talking about overall.
I have a question. Kathy Yonker, is there a cap on these monies? Up to just half of the budget?
Right.
Or can you have a $4 million budget and you can get $2 million?
$2
So
million.
it's never capped?
As long as your
Up
budget,
to the budget?
Right.
Half of the budget?
right.
Okay.
The money's there. And they're producing.
Right.
Yeah, and if the money.
And that's a key part. If something happens in the industry and gas goes and they cap everything, then that money just
Dries up.
That's understood.
stops.
Yeah, like a
Yep.
severance tax. something
Yep.
like that. Squeeze it.
Yeah. Second row, third row. John?
I got a couple things to add. Like Luke said, or Chief said about getting you guys cameras. Cameras will, if your police officers don't want to have cameras up here, I really suggest getting them. If not, like, get them the $100 body cameras. I mean, I usually am in this township, this is the zone I take when I'm working, so I'm off here answering calls with Mount Pleasant. I mean, I know we had some drunk guy he was from Burgestown. I'm trying to walk home, I forgot what road it is, where Dick Phillips used to live, at Waterdam. And I overheard it on the radio, and Amanda, his officer manager, went down there. Big, huge guy, tattoos everywhere, drunk out of his mind. No cameras, if anything would happen to her, no idea who did it. Cameras are
Safety.
very
Yep.
important. And like I said, I really would like to see a mix-app officer up here, I mean, because he says he gets half the fund. I'd like to see it spent on programs that are eventually gonna be self-sufficient. It's not even like we ended up using the money for,
Right.
you know? Like the sewage, I mean, eventually it's gonna be, you know, but it will catch up by us paying for it, you know, a tapping fee or whatever monthly it is. It's just, in case the money dries up, I'd like to see it put in self-sufficient programs.
Thanks, John. Jane?
Isn't there a way to increase our budget because we're allowed to take some of this Act 13 money and put it into a general fund to hold it? So can't we write that into our next projected budget, thereby increasing our bottom line budget?
It's in
So
there.
if we would roll 500,000, that would give us 250,000 a year. So there is a way to do that, isn't there? Because I've read that townships have done that. They've taken the Act 13 money and they rolled it into their next projected budget for these projects. Like you would take each project and put it in your budget, and then they increase their own Act 13 money the next year. And then if their money dried up, they just took those budget line items back out of their budget, thereby never raising the taxes, because the residents are already putting up with the inconvenience of what the drilling industry has brought here. I don't think that ever raising the taxes in the township to raise your budget is the solution, when we have basically free money with Act 13, that we could bottom line pad our budget numbers and still not spend all that money and increase our own Act 13 contribution. Wouldn't that be the smarter way to do it?
That budget number is with an estimated Act 13 number in
So we
there.
could take this year's and just kind of,
And that's what we have done for the last 2
so for
years.
his project, for as much as he needs, which he has an $8 million deficit in his project or funding balance that he needs to bring, we can put that majority of his $2 million or whatever into that budget and just increase our contributions yearly, could we not?
You have to have that available. You can't just say that your budget is this.
Right, but he doesn't need it. I mean, he needs the first $2 million to get started immediately, but he doesn't need that other 6,000 or 8,000. So that gives us another year or two to raise that money, does it not? You know, by putting that Act 13 money into our budget and then giving ourselves an Act 13 raise. You know what I'm saying?
The money, I mean, we have estimated for our budget purposes.
Right.
And when we did the budget last year, we
Right.
estimated 550,000 or
So
whatever.
we can do that again.
We can do it again.
Budget
Do it
surplus
every year.
$2
We do it every
million.
year.
And
Yeah.
then wouldn't that give us $1 million next year instead of a $500,000? I mean, it's a cap, so we could cap that,
No, you
correct?
can't.
It's already in there. You can't do it twice.
Yeah,
You can't do it every year?
you can add it in, but you can't add it on top of last year.
Yeah, you can't take
So
last
we
year's
have
and
to
say we're gonna
spend
roll
last
it.
year's.
Right.
Yeah.
But we could continue to increase our budget and not buy the Act 13 money, give ourselves a raise each year, even a small one.
It's 500,000 basically is what it boils down to as an estimate.
So we can't get much further up than that with the money.
No,
50%,
no,
you're
the
talking
money.
250,000.
One other question for you gentlemen. If political climate changes in Pennsylvania, there is a possibility that the impact fees will be stopped.
Yes.
And this is something that we must look at, because a severance tax is not going to benefit the townships that are impacted. So in the long run, we must look at what we have now and not wish for what we have in the future. There is always that possibility.
I think that's why I don't want to see the taxes raised to raise our budget, to raise more money, because if this dries up, we're not going to have that money for that increased budget. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
You can always reduce the taxes, take it both ways.
I'd like to request the balance to finish the comp plan. And you funded the first half.
I was gonna bring
Funded
that
the
up.
second half.
That's what I was gonna ask John.
Okay,
Good,
so
that's
it'll be
another-
Up to 25,000, depending. And I asked last time, we do need a building. We're out of space.
If we did something with the police, then that would open up some more space here too.
Yeah, we'd still need to do some renovations.
Yeah, there's things in the garage back there that need updating. All right, well, everybody, thank you. We appreciate your interest in this and the concern for the community, so we will definitely take all these into consideration, so.
I move that we adjourn the special meeting.
It's been moved.
Second.
And seconded, we adjourn. All in, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.
6:55.
All right, I did my numbers.
Like 20 million?
Let me see your numbers.
What are the requirements? What are the
That for the sewage people, that for the unsaturated. So I don't know what else he was gonna get, but he had a really good which one. That for the bathroom, that for the library. And I didn't do Mary Ann's because she's stuck at the end. But I mean, I just was curious what this. That just was all I was just following what they were saying.
Have some idea what the cost is, I ain't gonna